But the modules, which you heard Norman Foster talk about, means that we can build a stadium much more quickly. So there are yards in the world which specialise in building very large structures, which are then shipped to locations around the world. And we have an example of that in Antwerp at the moment, where we're building probably the largest petrochemical facility that's been built for the last 50 years, and it's been built in Abu Dhabi and Indonesia and Thailand, and the components are being shipped in, and they weigh 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 tonnes each, and they come in by ship, and then they're wheeled in on these extraordinary sort of vehicles with a lot of wheels. And we will do the same thing, and the thing that allows us to do that, of course, is the Manchester Ship Company.
To complement it. So these are big words, they're big ideas. Can they follow through? They seem very, very confident that they can, because of the government backing for a wider regeneration of South Manchester. Now, the stadium is expected to cost £2 billion, and the club are not seeking any taxpayer money for the stadium itself and the club-specific areas around it, like the megastore, the fan zone.
One of the key driving forces behind the new Manchester United stadium plan is to both deliver a stadium that, in Sir Jim Ratcliffe's view, reflects the club's status worldwide, while also driving much-needed regeneration to Old Trafford and the wider North West region.
I mean, it just started from the point that we needed a stadium which befitted the stature of Manchester United. And Manchester United, I mean, obviously, there's a degree of bias because I was brought up in Manchester. I've always been a fan of Manchester United, but I think it is the greatest football club in the world. It's certainly the most well-known football club in the world, and it needs a stadium of that stature, I think. It's more challenging, obviously, to build a stadium of 100,000, but I think the UK needs a stadium of that sort of presence, and the north of England, I think, is the best place to build it. And I just think it will become recognised throughout the world. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that will also help Manchester United, obviously. In my view, it is the world's favourite club. It is the world's biggest club. And I think, because this is bias, I think it's the world's best club. It's obviously had a difficult period for the last 12 years, but it deserves to have the finest stadium in the world, in my view, and that is very much my objective in building a new stadium, that it's the most iconic, it's the biggest, it's the most iconic, it's the most recognisable stadium in the world. I think that will hugely benefit Manchester United, but it will also hugely benefit that region, which obviously I'm very close to. It is where the world discovered manufacturing. The Industrial Revolution started in southern Manchester. Old Trafford is where... I mean, the reason Old Trafford is built where it is because the workers could walk to the ground. There was no public transport 150 years ago. So historically, it's a very significant part of the world. It is run down today. So I think it's a hugely important regeneration scheme.
One of the key questions now is, what is the timescale for the new stadium to be completed? Ratcliffe is confident that the club can make use of the advantages of the Manchester Ship Canal to accelerate the construction process.
It depends how quickly the government get going with their regeneration programme, because we underpin a regeneration programme, and it's a fundamental part of the government's commitment to regenerate that area. So, in a way, it depends how quickly the government... I mean, I think they want to get going quite quickly because they want to see progress in this term. So I'm assuming that will go well and it will go quickly. The second part of the answer is that it will be a modular build. There'll be an immense amount of work for the local people of Manchester.
Here's the statement. It's only been announced today, so we are unsure as to the amount yet. I'm not aware of any government support that has been committed to the project. Unsure of the specifics, but we look forward to working on the details with the proposal. And Sky News has contacted the Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport for comment, bringing that as and when we get it. Now, the precise funding for the plans is unclear, but CEO Omar Barada is confident they'll find the finances as part of a wider government regeneration.
Very exciting. I think it could be a game changer for our club, for the city and for the region.
people will say yesterday there was all these quotes from Sir Jim Ratcliffe saying the club would have gone bust had you guys not made the changes that you have with the redundancies, cost cutting. Today there's this shiny new 100,000-seater stadium plan, and they might try and put the parts together. So can you explain to those people?
Well, we've always said that our number one priority is to get the position and the club in the best financial position to be able to invest in players and in infrastructure. So the plan that was described yesterday by Sir Jim shows the ambition of where we want to be, and we want to be the most profitable club within the next 3 years, and that's going to put us in a very good position to be able to invest in projects like the stadium. We think the stadium could be the catalyst, the centerpiece for the wider regeneration project, and we want to make sure that we can build the most iconic stadium for the biggest football club in the world.
Now, fans will be very delighted to hear that the 10-year timescale can be cut down to 5 years. They'll also be wondering how the stadium is going to be paid for. Now, I know you guys have said you don't need government funding for the stadium itself, just the wider regeneration. Naming rights opportunity, other investment opportunities?
We're looking at all the options. It's still very early days. We do see this as a very attractive investment opportunity, again, as part of the wider regeneration project. So we're quite confident that we will be able to find ways to finance it and then work with the government to put in place a very, very emblematic and fascinating regeneration project.
Well, we heard her there speaking to Omar Barada, our senior reporter Melissa Reddy in London today when the plans were announced, and she's been dissecting all of the information.
Manchester United announcing ambitious new plans today to pursue that 100,000-seater new build, which will be the biggest stadium in the UK, the second biggest in Europe. And it comes a day after co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe said the club would have gone bust by Christmas had they not taken the action to do mass staff redundancies and other cost cutting. Now, the contrast between these two things, the having to save costs and then unveiling this iconic grand stadium, jarred. And so I directly asked Chief Executive Omar Barada how the club could square both these elements. And it's quite clear that United are trying to correct the course financially from past mistakes, and they've had to take what they say are very difficult, horrible, unpalatable decisions to enable them to then deliver in the long term something like this world-class stadium, a world-class team. Ever the wider regeneration of the area, the infrastructure. Remember, there's going to be new housing projects around it, there's going to be retail. So everything like that needs to be paid for by the government because this is part of their growth project. The stadium, Manchester United will cover the costs. How? Well, all options remain on the table. Barada's spoken to us about naming rights as a potential. He says there's exceptional investment opportunities for people to get involved and associate themselves with this iconic new venue. Now, how long would this take? Usually a project like this would require 10 years. United feel quite confident that they can do it in 5 years because of the Manchester Ship Canal. They've also done prefabrication work. So ideally for them, if everything goes according to plan and they get the local council on board, they want to get it moving at the end of this year. That would be their ideal scenario. Where will Manchester United play while this new 100,000-seater stadium is being built? They will remain at Old Trafford. That was part of the task force finding, that they wanted to bring as little upheaval and disruption to the team, to the match day experience, and so they will remain at Old Trafford while this new venue is being built.